don't want what we know out there.
How a person can go from really almost nothing to becoming a millionaire by owning rental properties.
He would always buy these flip houses, and I just remember thinking, this guy is crazy. Why would he buy that house?
In the past decade, there's been a huge surge in the peer-to-peer short-term rental market.
Become an insider. So you have to know the rules before you get the game.
Every second counts. So make every second count.
Welcome to the Real Estate Jam. Whether you're just beginning or the best of the best, we're glad you're here. We will share successes, failures, and strategies for the action-taking real estate investor. And now to your hosts, JD and Melissa.
Hey guys, welcome to the Real Estate Jam podcast. I'm JD and I'm with my wonderful co-host.
Hello, JD.
Melissa.
Happy Easter weekend.
Yep.
Monday. Happy Easter Monday.
Happy Easter Monday.
Thank you.
How are you? Rough week? Good week?
Middle of the road week.
Okay.
You? One of your many vacations.
I've had better. I did get a little bit of a break. So that was good, but we're back at it now. So today I want to talk about this awesome new law that was passed in Florida, which usually I think the less laws, the better. Let it, everyone be free. But especially when you look at around the country, and when we're talking about property owner rights, landowner rights, some states are really, really pro-landlord. Some states are really anti-landlord. Specifically, I'm thinking about California. Yeah. Or California and New York and some of the tenant landlord law there. And Florida has done a pretty good job of doing it. But the law, which is House Bill 621 that Governor DeSantis just put into effect, is essentially pro-landlord, pro-property, not even landlord, it's pro-property owner law that talks about removing squatters.
Yeah, I'm super, super happy to have this come down, just because every time that we have a property that we're like rehabbing or we're waiting between tenants or whatever, and any of the ones that I'm the listing agent for as well, when they're sitting there vacant, it makes me super stressed out.
Yeah, absolutely. And this law, which we'll get into in a few minutes, but it also, one of the problems that we see a lot of are false or fraudulent listings, false or fraudulent rentals, which this increases the punishment for that. And the number one thing is squatters, right? Yeah. So let's, like you said, you're worried about it. And really the reason that you're worried about it is because while that house is vacant, it's really easy to break into the house, change the locks out and start living there. And the way that it's been in the past and the way it is in a lot of other places, that's not looked at as a criminal act. It's looked at civilly. And if you call law enforcement over there, the tenants just have to say, hey, we're tenants here. And then the cops can't really do anything, or that's the way it was.
But their hands are tied. And then they say this is a civil matter, not a criminal matter, and they can't help you, which is, I know, frustrating for them as well as for us too.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And in the past, the way it was is then once that it was established, then you were still subject to the landlord-tenant law. You couldn't cut off the heat in the winter. You couldn't stop the water. You couldn't do any of those kind of things. And you had to initiate a traditional eviction process, which there's ways, and there's YouTube videos out there of squatters teaching other squatters what to do, what to say, how to file your own court documents to get the maximum amount of time in there. And during that time, because they're not paying for it, there's no responsibility to it. The squatters tear up the house, they break things, they just treat it extremely poorly, and it really became a big problem.
Did you see that guy that was on TikTok, and then I think it was on the news? One of the ones who came over the border, and he was teaching people, and he had this huge following of how to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
that was
exactly
crazy.
And I think that's probably what those TikTok, that's what allowed this to get movement in the
good.
in the
I
state
didn't know that.
to get passed. They even reference that in some of the press conferences about the YouTube squatters that are they're teaching people how to do that. So what is it? It's House Bill 621, and essentially it's there's a couple of key points, but it allows for the immediate removal and gives the authorities some legal things that they can base arrests off of and stuff they can do. Pretty much what happens is somebody moves into your house that you haven't, it can't be your immediate family members. It can't be somebody that you're currently in a legal dispute over. So like if somebody stopped paying rent and you filed the eviction on them and then you tried to file this, it wouldn't work. And what you have to do is there's some specific language that's written in the law that we will link in the show notes, but you fill out an affidavit essentially stating that, hey, this is my property. These people are trespassing. They're not tenants. We've never had a written or oral agreement for them to stay there.
No payments.
They're not my immediate family, and they shouldn't be there. And then the sheriff's department will look at that. Now, you're going to have to pay the sheriff's department for their time, and they're allowed to come there. And you also have to have asked them to leave. You can file this yourself, or you can have an agent, somebody acting on your behalf, file it, but there is some key language in there that you had to ask the tenants to leave. So but you fill this out, get it signed, and then you take it to the sheriff's department, and then they will provide that at your expense, you have to pay a reasonable hourly rate to the sheriff's department. I assume that it's going to be very similar to the writ of possession and getting on the wait list to do that, but it's immediate instead of going through the court process, getting a judge's order, and then going through with it. And the sheriff's not going to do any work. They will go in, they will identify everybody in the property. At that point, if there is vandalism, they can make an arrest on vandalism. If the person has any warrants or anything, they will identify the people who are in the property, give them trespassing, and remove them from the property. At that point, they will still stay around at your expense while you remove all of the person's possessions to close to the property line. That's what it's going to allow for. And so it pretty much, it shortchanges what the typical eviction process is for squatters. Somebody who's illegally gained entry and tried to establish a residence. We're saying, hey, these people no longer have the renter's rights because there was no rental agreement. There was no anything. And the law also talks about liability to the officer. Now, here's the thing, though. You're swearing that all of this stuff is true. So the tenant or the squatter, if they feel like they have been unjustly, if they think that the landlord's taking advantage of it, they can now sue the landlord for damages, for back rent, for all this kind of stuff if the landlord was lying. And I think that's good. That way you can't just use it
to get your current tenants out.
Get your current tenants out. Yeah, that's exactly right. We've seen so many problems, a lot of headaches that we help deal with come down to squatters. And
a lot of money and damages. All the ones that have torn the house up.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Like huge amounts.
Yeah. And just think about like after the hurricane, all of these people who just found these vacant houses and were moving into them and treating them like a trash bin. And the owners really had no recourse, especially because everything was so backed up. There was so much stuff. Think about during COVID when you couldn't get evictions. So people were just moving in and living in houses.
Yeah, that's just nuts. So we're super happy about this. And living in Florida, one of the perks of living in Florida was that our governor helped with this because it was an ongoing problem.
Yeah, and it should be, and I'm sure as there'll be a more streamlined process. This is actually going to go into effect on July 1st. Yeah.
A lot of stuff going on in July.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true.
We got the NAR.
Yep, NAR and this. I think it's just because this is when the legislative session ends, and then they give the certain amount of time. But I think the benefits to this, for you, if you're a landlord, you're going to be able to remove squatters from your home relatively easy. It's still going to be a pain in the ass, but there are going to be more legal ramifications for the people who are committing these crimes. And the other thing that is in there is that if there's greater than $1,000 of damage, which if you kick in one door, you're halfway to $1,000. You're halfway to $1,000 worth of damage. But $1,000 of damage and more, and it becomes a felony offense.
That's awesome.
So they're not messing around, and I think this is going to give landlords a lot of recourse for what's going on, and it just speeds the timeline up because you're not just worried about the damage they're doing to the house, but you're worried about the lost rents and everything like that. And before, it could take a month, 2 months, 3 months. And if the squatter or the tenant knows what they're doing or has legal representation, they can drag it out as long as possible. Meanwhile, you as the property owner are still responsible for, the code enforcement violations that will come from it. You're still responsible for insurance, taxes, all of these bills that are coming out when you literally can't do anything. And then on top of that, because most of the people who are doing the squatting or trying to stay in that property, they don't have a ton of financial assets. So even if everything that you say was proven, you're still unable to go after them for recompensation on the civil side because they don't have anything to give you, and they don't care about paying their bills, or they wouldn't be unauthorized tenants anyway.
It's a great thing. Super happy about that.
Yeah, I am too. So if you guys have any questions about that, feel free to reach out. Like I said, we're going to have the link to the government website that explains it, and you can read through it on your own. Obviously, if you have questions about this, talk to your own legal counsel.
If you need legal counsel, we have a great person here in Panama City Beach that would love to help you answer any questions for you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Good luck with any of your squatters, and I guess we'll see you next time.
See ya.
Thank you for listening to the Real Estate Jam. We hope you enjoyed today's episode. For more information, check out our website, therealestatejam.com, or find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Real Estate Jam. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us an email at therealestatejam@gmail.com. See you next episode.